The Kiwi Ears Altruva. Let's talk about it. This is a sample. It was sent out to me by Kiwi Ears. All right, let's look at the Kiwi Ears Altruva page. 50 millimeter dynamic driver, $70. You can find this for a lot cheaper. Now, there's been a lot of discounts, so I'd recommend you to look for discounts in your areas. I found a few for around 20% off on Amazon US. So that's just something to note for our US people. There is a gray version, and there is the wood brown version, which I believe is metal as well. One thing to note about this headphone is it does come with two sets of ear pads and an interchangeable 6.3 millimeters or quarter-inch adapter. Here you can see both ear pads. The cable isn't too exciting, but you can see an R and L for right and left. Here is its Y split. The cable is kind of unmanageable, but it's also, this is a $50 headphone. I feel like this is a durable, fine build quality cable. I don't have any fault with it other than the fact that it's long, but I guess in some ways it's better to have a longer cable than short. The top of this headband is a little bit flimsy. Again, build quality isn't super fantastic. Again, there has to be some cuts with this being a $50 headphone, meaning they probably made this for $30, which is highly impressive. I mean, for instance, I've bought ear pads for $50 and regretted it, but considering the fact they give you a second set of ear pads, this is great. Now, changing out the ear pads is kind of difficult. These kind of come off. You'll have to kind of wrap the headbands on and then kind of twist in. And so the problem is like when you put this in, if you have to twist the right direction to keep this little ear pad lock system on. So changing out the ear pads is a little bit painful. It's not something you want to do frequently, but if you need to change out the ear pads, you can do it. Now, I did have the ear pad holders fall off. I feel like the security of it could be a little bit better. Again, some concessions do have to be made with this being the cost of what it is. And so that's kind of one thing about this hobby is you kind of have to decide, what's important, build quality, sound, and everything. But all around, I think for this price, this is a good quality headphone. I find it comfortable and don't have any major fault with it. I also like the fit and comfort and design of it. I think all around, it's not only just solid for its price, really solid and quite beautiful. So as we continue to talk about this, I feel that there is a high level of serviceability, of ownership to this. And I do find this to be a fun headphone. I don't really find it super aggressive or poor in any ways. Now, compared to some of the other Kiwi Ears headphones. Now, if we're going to compare this to the Ellipse is cheaper. I feel the build quality on the Altruva is a little bit better. They're both 50 millimeter drivers. And so it's kind of hard to recommend kind of one over the other. They have different style headbands. The Altruva does work for me. But the treble and the sonic qualities on the Ellipse, I think, are a little bit better. The treble's a little bit better, whereas the overall presentation on the Altruvas would be better. They're both faulted and flawed and need a little bit of EQ. But out of the gate, the Ellipse feels like its treble and sense of space is a little bit better, while the Altruva does sound a little bit muddy out of the gate, and that's kind of its fault. Having said that, I am kind of one of those people that likes a little bit of warmth to my headphones, and the Altruva does work for me, but this headphone doesn't really supersede the Ellipse, and I think that people that like the Ellipse, because there's quite a few people that did, are still going to enjoy that headphone, and I do feel it still remains a good solid option for people that own it or that have it, and to consider maybe one or the other depending. So I don't like using a lot of flowery words to describe sound, but I'm going to try to describe the sound of how this feels to me. I feel like the bass is acceptable. It is punchy and dynamic, and it is a good sounding bass. The problem is, to me, is there's a lot of warmth to it. There isn't a ton of like mid-range focused energy. It feels like the clarity and detail isn't that great. The treble is, again, it's nice. Again, like I've compared this to a lot of my other gaming headphones that I have, and the Altruva to like the other Kiwi ears headphones, and I feel like this does have some merit, does have some value. I feel like music replay is enjoyable, and I didn't have any problems listening to podcasts or enjoying things on this. This is a nice audiophile, beautiful headphone for a reasonable cost that I think people are going to like. And so like the overall presentation of this headphone is good. And so I don't know, who is this going to be for? I want to say people that want a cozy headphone, that want to try something new. Like if you're going to try to gift this to somebody and you are looking at this headphone, I will say this is a great headphone. If you're a first-time audio buyer and you're like, I want to try one of Kiwi ears headphones, I would recommend this one probably over the other ones just because of the extra ear pads and because of its more standard design. I think it's going to work for people with a little bit more swivel and wiggle room to be able to fit on people's heads. I find it more comfortable. But I do feel that this is not going to be for everyone. I feel like if you want to EQ, when there comes more graphs of this headphone, I'll try to go ahead and post a EQ to either my Discord or to YouTube, depending if there's interest or desire. I do have an EQ for you guys I wanted to share with you. All right, and this is that EQ that I have for you guys. So what I'm really doing here is I'm kind of lowering down the mid-range energy and adding a little bit of 3K energy and a little bit of detail range. Again, not very much, just a little bit here and there. And I find that this kind of gives this, it kind of eliminates some of the mud and the warmth in this headphone and just adds a little bit of sparkle and dynamics. Again, this is just a very minor EQ, but I feel that this headphone does need EQ. And if you are an experienced user with EQ, I feel like this could be a very good headphone for you because I feel it's really, really comfortable. And it does have that second set of ear pads and it has a 3.5 cable, which gives a lot of flexibility to people that are willing to EQ with this. Again, I will be giving out a better EQ when I see more people graph this, but I don't have a headphone rig to be able to graph this headphone curve. But I find it really nice, and I find this EQ helps a lot and makes it a little bit more enjoyable and gets rid of the mud and adds a little bit more clarity and better treble to this headphone. When buying a headphone, you really got to know, what do you index for? Do you index for something that looks beautiful? Well, this hits that mark. Do you index for price? This also hits that mark. I think this is an interesting headphone that I personally find very enjoyable. I personally would recommend this to friends who are not a part of the audiophile hobby because I think the wood design's super cool. And for $50, it's hard to go. It's hard to deny that. But if you're a seasoned audiophile vet, could you want a different tonality and different tune to this? Yeah, I think so. I think the fact is that this kind of needs EQ, and this leads me to believe this is more of a 3-star or a 4-star style headphone. I feel that this is a good headphone and an enjoyable headphone. And I feel like I personally like it and recommend it to people, but I don't recommend it to people who own more expensive headphones. Like comparing this to my Sennheiser 550, I feel like it just doesn't have that same neutrality. If you're looking for neutrality and just are expecting an awesome headphone with great neutrality out of the gate, this isn't it. But I do feel this is all around solid headphone, especially for gifts for other people or for people who would like something cheap. It does really well. Thanks for watching. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye-bye.
And I half expected it to be made of wood. You are without doubt the worst
audiophile
I've ever heard of.
But you have heard of me.
You're still here. It's over. Go home. Oh, you're expecting a teaser for our next video. Well, we don't have that kind of money. What are you expecting? One of those store reviewers to show up in a saucy little leather number? Go. Oh, I can tell you one thing. We are going to have a collab video. We have no idea what it's going to be. Probably Kryn, maybe Chris, or Joyce. Don't deny it. She's got range. Go. Get out of here. Go.
Go!
Go.
Go on with you!
You're mid, you're mid, you're mid, you're legendary. You're mid, Jaytis out.